Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Always in Season podcast, episode number 4. I'm Zach here with Susanna, and the draft is officially done.
It's done. It's over, and it was a good draft.
It was. A lot of teams got better, and now we just look forward to the schedule release and the couple months just away from the start of the season.
Yeah, and some rookie minicamps are starting
Mm-hmm.
up, so there's still a lot going on. That's where we got our title, always in season, because even when the games aren't being played, there's always something happening in the NFL. So, do you want me to start it off?
Yeah. Well,
All right. So Jaguars Trevor Lawrence, Vikings Christian Darrisaw, Bills Greg Rousseau, Falcons Kyle Pitts, and Jets Elijah Vera Tucker were all picked up for their fifth-year options. This is something we're going to be seeing a lot this offseason. Fifth-year options are a good way for teams to be able to keep their players that they want to keep, but not have to give them a big paycheck right away.
yeah. I think you kind of mentioned earlier, Kyle Pitts. It feels like he hasn't been in the league that long.
He
But
hasn't.
I feel it. He's obviously one of the better tight ends in football, and I think last year he didn't have a lot of targets, but he was kind of a quiet season. But still,
Yeah, the Kyle Pitts one, they're picking his up early. Like, this is earlier than typical. So, it's a weird situation, but yeah, he is one of the young, up and coming tight ends. So, hopefully it works out for them.
Yeah.
It's probably just better financially for them.
Yeah. Kind of going off that, we had two big extension. Christian Barmore signed a 4-year, $84 million extension, and Travis Kelce re-signed with the Chiefs. His 2-year, 34, about $17 million a year. Both of these guys, especially Kelce, just big paydays for both of them.
Yeah, and obviously everyone knew, like, Kelsey deserves this, but Christian, like, I'm glad he's finally getting paid. Like, he deserves this. He's a big part of that Patriots D, and, yeah, I think these are both good contract
Yeah,
extensions.
definitely. I think there was some talk a little bit about maybe Kelsey, like, is he coming back or whatever. I personally don't think there was ever a question, but glad to see that he's getting has good money and run it back next year.
Yeah, and he did say he was never going to, like, hold out. I think
Right.
he has too much
Yeah.
respect and love for the
Yeah.
Chiefs organization and everyone. Michael Gallup signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders, so this is the kind of situation where, you're going to play and try to play for another contract.
Right.
DJ Chark also signed with the Chargers for a 1-year deal, and then OBJ a few minutes ago signed with the Dolphins 1 year, $8.25 million.
Yeah, I think all those guys, again, it's kind of a play for another contract year, especially with Odell. Odell, ever since he's left the Giants, he's just kind of floated from team to team, hasn't really found a permanent home.
Yeah.
But I think he's trying to play for another contract. All these guys are. And the Sharks signed with the Chargers, but I mean, yeah, I think all these guys can have that veteran presence in the locker room, and we'll see how they all pan out.
Yeah, I think this is a good situation for all these players and teams because it's like they have some young guys, some newer guys, but like you said, the veteran presence will help, and they're gonna be motivated because they want to
Right.
they either want to play for a championship
Mm.
or they want to play for another contract or both. So, the Rams signed running back Boston Scott.
Yep.
Yes, he's still in the league. Then Ezekiel Elliott reuniting with the Cowboys. I think that's super fun. He wanted to come back. And then Jarvis Landry is going to be part of the Jags rookie minicamp.
Yeah. This, I mean, all these are kind of just they're just quiet signings, but Zeke back to the Cowboys is interesting.
I know. It's fun. He's not as good as he was, 2016, 2017 when he was with them, but, like, I think he's motivated to, like, go do well. I want this to, like, be, like, a rejuvenating of my career.
I think he got number 15 back, so it's his college number, I believe. Wearing number 15. So, but yeah, I think the Cowboys having Zeke back, I think it could go. I think it could be good, bad, but I don't know. It's kind of it's an interesting move, I feel, but like Zeke really didn't have a home and found his way back to Dallas.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. And then, obviously, the Boston Scott getting with the Rams, just another running back to add for the roster. And then Jarvis Landry, he's kind of like the receivers we were talking about before, just, bouncing around a little bit the last couple of years, trying to find a home and play for another contract.
Yeah. Matt Ryan and Jason Kelce, they both signed TV deals. They're going to be on different networks, but both of these guys, they're retired now. And glad both these guys are on TV.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love when the players who retire, they come and still are given to the game. Like, it shows how much love and passion they have for football, and it makes the TV network so much better when we have the voices from those guys who were in those locker rooms, who were in those big moments. And I just think it's a lot of fun, so good for them.
I think Jason bringing his charisma to the just to Monday Night Countdown, that whole show. I mean, it's a pretty good show to begin with, you
Hmm.
know. And having Jason there, I think it's. I just love Jason. I love Jason, how he carries himself, and
Yeah.
glad he's not fully stepping away from the game.
We need to get Jason on this podcast because we talk about
Yeah,
him every single
yeah, we do.
week. And then Devonte Adams said on a podcast that he did not regret leaving the Packers. And I think he would never say that he regrets
No.
it because he left to play with his buddy Derek Carr. They both went to Fresno State together. And even though it didn't pan out where they went and won a Super Bowl or, broke a lot of records, that's his brother and he wanted to play with him. So he's never going to say that he regretted it.
Right.
But he did admit that Jordan Love is a baller.
Yeah.
And that he didn't fully see that when he was in Green Bay, but that he's proud of him and that he's going to be the next great. And even Max Crosby was saying that kid.
That kid. I mean, having that. I don't know, Devontae when he was in Green Bay, and I can't blame him for I mean,
No.
you don't know how long Rodgers was going to be there, and you had I don't think anybody had any idea what Love was going to be, especially right away, you know. But I think, I mean, from a player standpoint, he could make the same money going play with his friend, and I guess he was so comfortable with Rodgers, and he obviously didn't see what Love was going to be. But looking at it now, maybe it was better for both sides. The Packers kind of didn't have that star receiver, and they attacked the draft the year after Rodgers left, and you have, stars emerging like Wicks, Reed, and Dobbs, and
Yeah, exactly. And I think Devontae, he did mention that he was a little frustrated with the Packers front office, and he also talked about how he alluded to the fact that Rodgers, every year it was like, are you coming back or are you not? Like, it was a lot of drama, and I think Devontae was just kind of done with it, no matter how much love he had for the Packers or confidence or not in Jordan Love. But he's still rooting for them, which is great. And then the whole rookie receiver thing that the Packers had to do, I think it's great. It's one of my favorite parts about when you're seeing Jordan Love go and shine right away. Everyone said that Rodgers never was given enough weapons, but you also saw him target Devontae. Everything was Devontae related. Where Jordan, he doesn't have that guy. He didn't go and create that guy of, I'm going to target you all the time. He spread it out, so we had a new star on the Packers every week.
I think it's kind of similar to if you look back to like when Rodgers was starting after Favre. He had young guys like Jordy, James Jones, Greg Jennings that just he could go. These were his comfort guys, all 3 or 4 of them, and now you kind of see that with Love. These guys can grow together, whereas like with Rodgers, it was kind of I would say a little frustrating for him because they got younger and these guys they have to learn, and it's not by any fault of their own. Rodgers has just been in the league and he sees things differently than young guys do.
Yeah.
And having the situation where Love is growing with these guys, it's just a better mesh and is a big reason why he succeeded.
Yeah, and one more thing that I'll say is that the whole team chemistry building Rodgers talked about too, because what they were interested in, Rodgers was 34 years old, and these guys are 24. What music they're listening to, what activities they're participating in, it's a completely different lifestyle. Where Jordan, he is at the same stage as these guys, so.
And then, I mean, you saw it a little bit after the draft as the young guys kind of start getting to their new homes, and having a young guy like Love that has been there pretty recently, I would say. He understands it, and having that youth at times can be a little frustrating, but again, if they all grow together and they do have veterans on the team, I think team chemistry, especially in football, goes a long way.
For sure.
The last one thing we'll talk about is Roger Goodell mentioned about moving the Super Bowl to President's Day weekend, and he also hinted maybe at an 18-game season.
Yeah, I like this move. I think with the 18-game season, you're going to get some pushback. The whole NFLPA, we're going to have that. But in the end, the NFL is king. When it comes to sports leagues, it really is. And Goodell does such a great job of making the game safer, but also making it, more global and then extending the season. And I mean, I'm all for more football.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are, but as someone, I mean, I myself played, I played in high school, but it was different. But I've seen, it's a obviously physically demanding game. I think if you start to push this, like, oh, one game here, a couple more seasons, one more game here, I think if you throw another bye week in there, I think it could be great, really beneficial. Again, it's kind of, I mean, it's extending the season, which I think football fans aren't going to complain about. But again, it's trying to find that fine line of like the perfect amount of games.
Yeah, and I don't think you should go beyond 18 without adding another bye.
Mm-hmm.
I think 18 is the max you could do with just the one bye week. Um, I don't know. This is kind of just like spitballing here, but I wonder if they would ever do something of like we're just having a week without football, where it's like two halves of the season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like how the NBA is like the NBA All Star break, like
Yeah.
something like that, because it can be hard for the schedule makers to arrange all the different buys.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's having a week 4 bye week or week 5 bye week, they still have a crap ton of games to play.
That's why it's like really frustrating, and it's so hard because like you can't hit your stride as far as the team goes. You play 4 or 5 games,
Yeah.
and you're starting to figure it out, and then you hit a bye week, and you're like, you got a week off. Obviously the week helps, but I think having that second bye week, if you push it past 18 games, I think you have to consider a second bye week.
Yeah. And then the whole President's Day thing, like that weekend, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
you're just excited because you want to party, right?
Yeah.
That's what you were saying.
I mean, it's just having that Monday off. Everybody watches this. Everybody watches the Super Bowl. Whether you're a football fan or not, you watch the Super Bowl.
Better.
And having that Monday off after hanging out with friends and family, I think it's going to be great, and I think more people will watch and pay attention to and follow it longer because they don't have to get up for work.
Yeah, I mean, we always see the jokes of like, hey, I emailed my teacher, I emailed my boss, like,
Yeah.
I can't come in, like,
Yeah.
but it'll be fun, and it gives the fans of the winning team, to celebrate, and the fans of the losing team to have a day to,
Yeah.
mourn the loss.
Right. All right. Yeah.
Well, that's it for the weekly news recap. Next, we're gonna jump into some more analysis of the draft grades, and the winners of the divisions. All right, so now we're gonna go over the division winners of the draft. Just to be clear, we're not saying that these are the teams that we think are gonna go win the division this year in the season. We're saying the team in each division that won the draft. We'll talk a little bit about what players, how they built their squad, or things like that. So we can start it off with the NFC North.
Yeah, NFC North, they as a division had a phenomenal draft. I think they have a chance to be one of the most competitive divisions in football, with all of them either having an established quarterback or like a rookie that could shine. But for mine, I had the Packers. I think the Bears had a good draft, but they didn't have a lot. I think they only had 5 picks.
Yeah.
So obviously the Bears, they got their guy in Caleb and Rome, but I think the Packers got more bang for their buck. They got Edgerrin Cooper, arguably the best linebacker in the draft.
Yeah.
Javon Bullard, one of the better safeties, and I think what could be a sneaky pick was Kalen King, got drafted 7th round. Just a few years ago, he was projected a first round, possibly first day pick, but he had a rough last year. I think he had a rough year. He kind of got torched by Marvin Harrison against Ohio State, and then he didn't participate in the Senior Bowl, and that kind of didn't help his draft stock.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the NFC North did a really good job, but even analysts are saying that like the Packers might have had the best draft in the whole league. It's hard to not put them up there. Brian Gutekunst does a great job of acquiring picks through trades and trading back to get more draft capital, and they already have such a good team that's already and young, so it was really just bolstering that roster. Like you said, Edgar Cooper's a great pickup. I think Marshawn Lloyd, running back, a lot of people actually are saying that he's going to be kind of a more power version of Aaron Jones.
He's a little bit big. He looks like, when I looked him up, like he's built very similar to Jones, and he looks bigger than he is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's one of the better running backs of this draft class. And then also, I know they don't need a quarterback, but the fact that they grabbed Michael Pratt, I think, is very, very good. You can never have too many good quarterbacks on your roster, and I just think that was a sneaky good pickup. Because it's the kind of pickup where he's never going to be their starter. Jordan Love's obviously their guy.
Yeah.
But they could build him up and possibly get trade value.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people talked about. Just he could be a great trade asset, and we don't know. He could have a great preseason grade training camp, and could he win the backup job?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Maybe. For the NFC South, we can move to. I have the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
I think they won.
Yeah, I had that too. They got a great tackle in Sleece Fuaga. Kool-Aid McKinstry, obviously one of the better corners, and I know someone you're high about, Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, and I think I do have that. We'll go into that more a little bit
Mhm.
later in the podcast, but I think that was a really good pickup. I think a good situation for him. The Saints don't have like a sure this is their guy at quarterback, but they do have guys that they can be like, yeah, you can sit and watch. I also think Jalen Ford was a good pickup for them. I honestly think the Saints had their best draft in the last.
Yeah, they had a really
years.
good draft. They had a lot of needs, and they attacked all those needs. And again, like you said with Spencer, he could sit for a little bit, and he could be a solid starter, down the line.
Yeah. For the NFC West, we can move to. I had the Rams. I mean, when you get Jared Verse, I mean, I'm sorry, that's just such a good pickup.
Yeah, the Rams did have a good draft. I had Seattle. I thought the Seahawks had a great draft. They got Byron Murphy, the best D tackle in the draft. They had a lot of needs, and they attacked all of them. But I mean, like you said, the Rams had a good draft.
Yeah, they grabbed Blake Corum.
Yeah,
like,
and I think that's a Michigan guy. He arguably the best running back in the country. He was up there.
He was up there, and Michigan. I mean, like they always produce well in the draft. They get winners, and I think they actually had the most players drafted.
Yeah, I think there was at one point 3-4 won in a row.
Yeah,
Yeah. NFC East. This was
tough.
It was tough. I had Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Philly always seems to hit it in the draft.
They do, and I'm not gonna lie. With the NFC East, it's basically the Giants didn't win, but everyone else really slayed this draft.
Yeah. But the Eagles, they got Quinny Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. I think obviously having those two guys that they can grow and play together, I think they could be great. But some of the top two guys early they went. I think they both fell a little bit, especially Cooper fell. I think more than people expected. But kudos to the Eagles for getting both of these guys.
Yeah. I do want to touch on both the Commanders and the Cowboys. Like, I want to give them their respect because, I mean, the Commanders started off right by grabbing Jaden Daniels. And they also picked up Luke McCaffrey, which I think is really fun. They didn't have to, like, go reach for him or anything. He kind of fell to them. And I think that's a fun pickup. Even, I'm not saying he's going to go be as great as Christian is in the league. That's a really high bar.
Yeah.
But he comes from a family of athletes. And I think the Commanders really did a good job. I think they're on the right track. They've had so many years of turmoil and drama and, I'm sorry, but failure.
Yeah.
And I think they're finally have this, like, fresh start. And I think that's kind of what the Patriots are trying to do, too.
Yeah.
I know that's another team, another division, but their situations are similar. And for the Cowboys, I mean, they started off with a really strong offensive tackle, which they needed to add to and get more health there. And I honestly think Kalen Carson, he's a fifth-round cornerback. I think that was a sneaky good pickup. I think corners in the late rounds are fun because you get to they don't have these expectations of, like, going and being, like, that lockdown on an island kind of guy. But they can build up fast, and they can end up being, like, a really good add to
I mean, you see it a lot. I mean, some of these guys some of these teams, I should say, have veteran corners, and they have these young guys, and it just takes one of them to take them under their wing, and they can become great. Very quick.
Yeah, and the Cowboys have some good defensive coaches on their staff.
AFC North, I had the Steelers. They attacked their O-line, which they needed to protect Russ. And I wanted my Steelers, I feel like, if he can stay healthy, is Peyton Wilson.
Okay.
One of the better linebackers this year, but battling those injuries is why he fell. Yeah. But putting him with a guy, with a coach like Tomlin, I think he could be really good, and maybe the Steelers got another good defensive player.
I think he was born to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Yeah. I really do. I kept going back and forth with the Steelers and the Ravens of who won. So since you touched on the Steelers, I'll touch on the Ravens. They started off with Nate Wiggins, which is obviously a great first-round guy. But then they grabbed TJ Tampa, and I think that was, like, their steal, I guess you could say, out of Iowa State corner in round 4. I think the Ravens, they have DeCosta as GM, and he's obviously one of the better GMs in the league, and it helps when you have a team that, like, you know you're going to make the playoffs. Or, you already have like a winning team and you just have to add to it. And I think they did a really good
Mm.
job adding the pieces that they needed to. But they're not going to have to rely on these guys right away.
AFC South, I had the Colts. The
Okay.
Colts, they always seem to draft pretty well. They took Laiatu Latu first round. I think he obviously a good pick for them. And then they got a Donnie Mitchell. I
Yeah.
think he fell a little bit, and I think he's very similar build to Pittman. And I think putting him alongside Pittman, along with Josh Downs, they could have a sneaky good offense next year. And they drafted a line. Colts are known for drafting O line.
Yeah.
I think there's a few teams that draft O line really well, and you can never have too much help there, and they got more help.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree with you on the Colts. The Jaguars also, I think, did
Mm-hmm.
a good job, better than I expected,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. But I have to agree with you. I think the Colts definitely won that division.
AFC West, I had the Chargers.
Mm,
I think a lot of people
really?
like Chargers fans. I think I said it earlier. Charger fans are upset at the Joe Alt pick. I'm not. Like it's
You're not a Chargers fan.
Yeah, I'm not a Chargers fan, so obviously it doesn't
Yeah.
have that much impact on me. I get they need a receiver, but having Joe Alt there for the next what looks to be what decade plus, he could just be their guy. Then they drafted Lad McConkey and Brendan Rice, so they did get their receivers later on. But I think overall they had a good draft, and we'll do a little bit into Brendan Rice's story a little bit later on.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. I think the Chargers had a good draft, but I would say the Chiefs won
Yeah,
that division, and
yeah,
I know 31 teams hate that, but they started off like we talked about last week with Xavier Worthy. Like the
yeah.
fact that they were able to get him is
Frustrating.
frustrating for anyone who's not a Chiefs fan. But it was a really good pickup, and honestly, if you just go down the line, like they just offensive tackle, tight end, DB, like
Yeah,
they're bolstering a great championship roster, and it's just
yeah.
like so. Like you said, frustrating to see because like it's dynasty, not many people like dynasties unless it's their team.
Right.
But the Chiefs really outdid themselves this draft.
The last one, AFC East, I had the Jets.
Me too.
The Jets, they got Fashanu, their first round pick. O tackle, obviously they have the help there already, but you can never have too much protection for Rodgers, especially how last year went.
Mm-hmm.
And then Braylon fell to them. Braylon Allen, running back from Wisconsin. I think it's a great fit for him. He fell a little bit further than he should have, in my opinion. And I think I watch him at Wisconsin. He's comfortable catching passes. He does comfortable run blocking.
Yeah.
Everything you can ask for in a running back, that's him.
Yeah, and then they also had Mr. Irrelevant Jalen Key, safety out of Bama, and honestly, I think that was a really good pickup.
Yeah.
Like, now the thing is, he has to follow Brock Purdy, like
Yeah,
the other Mr. Irrelevant
right.
part, right? But Jalen Key was a good pickup, like you said, Braylon Allen, which we can get to more later. They grabbed Jordan Travis at quarterback.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick. But,
Yeah, interesting and just good. Like we said earlier, it's always good to have a backup, whether it's your future guy or trade value. And then I think honestly, the wide receiver Malachi Corley, I think that was a nice addition. I think he can develop into a pretty solid 2 or 3 guy.
So now that we talked about the division winners, we're going to jump into our top 3 steals of this past draft.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah, at number 3, I do have Spencer Rattler. Obviously, he very likely won't be going and starting right away. But I think that's good. I'm all for drafting and developing the quarterbacks, not just throwing them out there into the fire right away. I think the Saints don't have expectations to go win the Super Bowl this year. They don't even have expectations to necessarily win their division. If they get, a wild card spot, that'd be great. I think a lot of people have the Falcons or the Buccaneers taking that division. But I think Spencer Rattler, he's been, in the fame since high school, and he's had some tough times on and off the field that have maybe slowed down and dented his, I guess, people's take on him or outlook on him. But he is somebody who is going to work harder than anyone, and he is a very good teammate, a very good leader. And I think he's going to be somebody that can transfer from college to the NFL well when it comes to the work and the preparation and the leadership and I'm really excited. I love the Saints pick. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect situation
Yeah.
for him.
For my number three, I had Donnie Mitchell. It's the Colts. He didn't fall that far, but he was taken 52nd overall. But I think putting him alongside guys like Pittman and Downs,
Mhm.
he's a big receiver. And then obviously they were hindered by injuries last year, and we'll see what they can do. But I think he should get plenty of targets next year. Obviously, Pittman's their number one, and Downs looks to be the number two. But I mean, if Adani has a great year, he could be, eight, seven, 800 yard receiver, and it wouldn't be shocked.
It's a great steal. For number two, I have Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin. He was 134th overall. Um, we literally saw mock drafts with him as a round one or early round two guy. The fact that he fell to 134 was so strange.
Yeah.
This whole draft, the way the board fell was
Yeah.
so weird. But I think Braylon Allen is a great pickup. The
Mhm.
Jets, they want a running back, and that'll be a good one-two punch they have now.
Yeah.
And Braylon Allen, I mean, he's the kind of guy that, like Wisconsin, they do running backs and offensive line
Yeah,
well,
that's what happened.
So, I'm excited to see what
Yeah,
he does in
again,
the league.
you see guys like Melvin Gordon and obviously Jonathan Taylor in
Mhm.
Indianapolis. They consistently produce pretty good running backs, and this very well could be the next great one.
He could honestly be a dark horse rookie of the year.
Yeah,
candidate,
definitely.
Office rookie of the year.
My number two is a weird one. It's Brendan Rice. He was projected, I think, third, fourth round, and he was taken at 225th overall. He fell all the way that far.
Yeah.
He was drafted on his way to his best friend's funeral. I think he's gonna have a big chip on his shoulder, and he was very emotional when he got the call from the Chargers. And the Chargers need help at receiver, and he could be very quickly their top guy. Obviously, not having Keenan Allen there. But again, I think he's gonna have a big chip on his shoulder, and I think one of the bigger steals of this draft.
Yeah, I agree. At number one, I have Cooper DeJean, corner out of Iowa, 40th overall. Um, Everyone had him going in the first
Yeah.
round, and after he didn't go in the first round, everyone said like he's gonna be the steal of the draft, no matter who gets him, no matter where. And the fact that he fell to 40th, like that was just so strange.
Yeah.
Just seeing him keep dropping. The Eagles got a great corner.
Yeah, I had Cooper as well. Again, you kind of saw like once you get past 15, 16, you're like, all right, when's the corner gonna go? When's the corner gonna go? And then Terry and Arnold went and Mitchell went, and you're sitting there at the end of day one, and you're like, Cooper's there.
Cooper's there, yeah, and the Eagles like they wanted to add to their secondary,
Yeah, and they did.
They didn't have to go in the first round. Like I don't
Yeah.
know, I'm impressed by the Eagles being able to get him, and I think the fun thing about Cooper is he has the ability to like be kind of like a safety, like a ball hawk kind of corner, and I'm really excited
Yeah.
to see what he does. I think he's gonna be a star in this
There
league.
was some talk before he was drafted about moving him to safety, and I think the Eagles said no, he's a corner,
Yeah.
and I think he was born to play corner. I think there's this misconception that guys like him have to play safety. But he plays corner. He played in college. He played it really well, and that's where he needs to stay.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess that's it for
Yeah.
this segment. Next we will go over some draft, facts, stats, and just some interesting things from the 2024 draft.
All right, now that the draft is officially over with, we're gonna just kind of go through some interesting facts about the draft. It's kind of weird, like you said, the way the board fell and how late a defensive player was drafted. So we're just gonna kind of get into those facts.
Yeah, one of my favorite stats or facts was about Drake May. He's the first player selected in the top 10 by the Patriots since Gerard Mayo was drafted in 2008, 10th overall. And I don't know, like Gerard Mayo, he is now the head coach of the Patriots. I just think that's a fun one, And good for Drake May. He had a lot of doubters coming into the draft, including you.
Yeah. Again, he's got a lot of people to prove wrong, including myself, and we'll see how he does next year.
Yeah. Another one, draft attendance in 2023 was 312,000. Draft attendance in 2024 was 775,000. That's a major jump.
Yeah.
Like massive. It was in Kansas City this past year. This year it was in Detroit.
Yeah.
As somebody who lives in Green Bay, I am very scared because it is going to like double or triple our population. It's insane.
I mean, obviously you have the concern. Obviously, if you haven't been in Green Bay, it's a very small place, and having a draft here is something that's kind of like
Great.
It's great. But again, it's something that I'm sure they talked about as far as like where everybody's hotels and everything. But this place is going to be buzzing in a year, and
We,
Detroit, they we Green Bay has a lot to follow in Detroit, but I think it's going to be great for the city and for those people who haven't that you always hear, oh, little old Green Bay, and
mm-hmm.
it's the I would say the mecca, but it's one of the better stadiums, and
Oh yeah,
you
it's
hear all the time
historical.
that analysts or even like you just drive through this neighborhood and then there's Lambeau,
Yeah.
you know. I think we obviously we appreciate it, but we don't have the appreciation because we're here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We can go drive and see it right now if you want to.
No, Green Bay is really special. I mean, the stadium is in the neighborhood, and I mean it's Titletown. It's a historical place. A cool fact: the Packers have the biggest pro shop of any team in the
Yeah,
league. So even though it's a small city, like the fans, like it is, we're global,
yeah,
And I think what's really special about Green Bay, like the scene when you're going there, like people are just
yeah,
parking in people's driveways and on the grass,
yeah,
and everyone's holding up their signs, and you're walking through neighborhoods, you're walking through people's yards to
yeah.
get to the game. It's we
It,
don't have a parking garage, okay? Like we don't have that, and I think a lot of people who haven't been to a game in Green Bay or don't live here
mm,
don't realize just how crazy it is. Like I'm walking and there's like my friends literally live like
right there.
5 minutes
Yeah,
away. There's a school like right around the
yeah,
corner, and they also have fences like decked out with like
yeah.
Packer gear. I don't know. It's
It's
just it's a special place. It
yeah.
really is. So
The
seeing the
people
draft.
that live around it fully embrace it.
Hmm.
Obviously it's not cheap to live right by
No,
Lambeau.
not at all.
But again, it's just a special place, and having the draft here, it's gonna be great, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
And Mark Murphy, the Packers president, he has done a really good job building up Green Bay, especially
Mm,
right around Lambeau. They have Titletown District now. They have playgrounds, like three different playgrounds right in the same area for all different ages, free for the community. They have a sledding hill off of a building. They
yeah,
have an ice skating rink. They have cornhole and they have
yeah.
ping pong. They have an entire regulation sized football field
Mm,
that you can just go and play on at
yeah,
any time. It is a great place, and they're
yeah,
trying to make it even
yeah,
more aesthetically pleasing looking, I
yeah,
guess. Preparing for the draft, and
yeah,
I think it'll be great.
yeah.
Next, this is a really sweet one. Jeremiah Trotter was drafted by the Eagles in the third round of the 1998 draft, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was drafted by the Eagles in the fifth round of the 2024 draft. And it's
Yeah,
fun,
it's
family.
it's fun to. I mean, you kind of saw it like Marvin Harrison Jr. trying to talk about like, oh, it'd be cool to go to the Colts, but to
Mm-hmm.
see it actually happen, it's so cool. This kid grew up an Eagles fan. He
Yeah,
was at all these Eagles games, and now being able to wear the jersey and help the team win a title is it's special.
it's really special, and you're gonna see all the comparisons, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's got to be fun to play for your childhood team and also play for your dad's team.
Mm.
That's awesome. Then we did touch on this one, but drought record of 138 picks between quarterback selections. 12th overall, Bo Nix was selected, and then Spencer Rattler wasn't selected until 150th overall. That is a new record. That was insane.
Yeah, quarterbacks win what 1, 2, 3, and then
Hmm.
what 6 in the first 12, and
Hmm.
then we saw Spencer go very late.
Yeah, yeah, we were all just waiting, but I mean, defensive players had to go at some point,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
all the offense went early, and
Yeah,
then obviously once you get kind of out of the first round, it's kind of you're not. I wouldn't say you're trying to draft a starter, but it's like, oh, we have a guy, we don't need him. We can wait.
you're
We
trying to
can
get a
wait.
steal, but
Yeah,
you
we
know,
can wait, and that's when you find guys like fourth, fifth, sixth round, like Spencer. So
yeah.
we'll see how he does.
Yeah, exactly. Also a record of 55 offensive linemen were taken, and we talked about that, like how many linemen went in
I
just
think
the first
nine. I
round.
think
Like,
nine.
yeah, so 55 in the whole draft. That was a
Yeah.
record.
Again, O line never can. First about what was it? First to blame, last to fame. I think they say with O line.
You can
Um,
never have too many good
you can
linemen.
never, and the teams that draft well and have a good O line are usually successful. No matter, I mean, obviously you have to have a quarterback,
Yeah.
but again, having an O line, having that foundation is key.
And what's great about like linemen, like when you have a bunch, I mean, it's a position where you can get banged up,
Yeah.
injured pretty easily, and also you sometimes it's not just like oh you have your backup, but like filling in. Okay, well I do play left guard, but I'm gonna play right guard this
Mm-hmm.
week because he's out, and like so that interchangeable. So linemen are really important, and I love seeing not the just like the quarterbacks and receivers get attention. I love seeing the
Yeah,
offensive linemen get the hype they deserve.
right.
So that was a fun record. Lastly, 20 defensive players were selected in round two, the most since 2016.
Yeah. I
Not
mean,
surprising.
no, I mean, 15, 16 went offensive first 16 or so, and then you saw defensive players go, and I think teams they got their weapons early, and then they're like, all right, defensive players, we gotta
Yeah,
go now.
which is why so many of the Steelers are defensive
Yeah.
players like Cooper.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was a really fun draft. Like we said, the board fell in a really strange way, but it made it that much more exciting and made for really cool stories. And I'm just excited for next year's draft.
Yeah. I mean, the NFL draft is always interesting. You have other drafts that people kind of watch, but the NFL draft is one that everybody watch. At least like the first day, people are paying attention, and then after that, the viewers definitely go down.
Yeah.
But like I mean, like you said, next year with the draft, I'm sure we'll try to be there. I know I'm going to be there, but having like you said, having it in Green Bay and having a chance to break what Detroit did is going to be interesting in this small town.
Yeah, for sure. So now that the draft is over, there's not as much news going on. We're gonna be doing some kind of fun
Mm-hmm.
topics for our podcast. So for next week's podcast, we will be doing a rookie quarterback prediction. Where going into a deeper dive of where these rookies landed, and just seeing how we think they're gonna pan out in the league or even just their first year. And then we'll also do a quarterback hot seat take. So going through all the teams, all right, did they draft their replacement, and are they
Yeah.
going to get moved, or just, is this their final straw?
Right.
So that's what we'll be looking into next week, as well as whatever weekly news recap we
Yeah.
have. So
We'll see you
uh,
guys next week.